Hey everyone, Hades, the game so many people talked about being their game of the year, was just added into Xbox Gamepass, so let's figure out if it was worth the wait. This is a game that everyone online was suggesting. It was nominated for and won a bunch of awards from a variety of publications. Personally though, through the trailer, it just didn't resonate with me. Whenever I saw it, I always thought, I'll try it one day. I was just never in a rush to try it. But then it was announced for Game Pass on the Xbox, and this became my perfect opportunity to give it a shot. There was no reason for me to push it aside anymore. Upon first loading into the game, I was treated to this very crisp music, something that I felt really set the appropriate tone. Then it did one of my favorite things for a game to do. It gave me full control of my character right away. No 20-minute cutscene or 40-minute tutorial where the game slowly teaches you how to walk, just straight gameplay. It gives you a sink or swim opening, and it's something I really appreciate. The visuals during gameplay are pretty good. Depending on the area, there's a good mix of dark and vibrant colors. Some colors really pop, and it helps to differentiate between attacks, enemies, traps, and the background. When there's lots of enemies, or when there's a bullet hell moment, I would never get lost in the chaos. They clearly put a lot of effort into making sure nothing looked too similar in terms of size, shape, or color, because they understood the player needs to clearly see everything that is happening at any moment. The character models look good too, lots of detail. During gameplay or a still image during conversation, it doesn't matter. They made sure everyone looked unique. They also gave each section its own unique color scheme, and I think it worked well. It's a good way to indicate progression to the player without being too direct about it. As for the sounds, I think they're great. The music never gets dull, even if you hear it non-stop. The effects from the weapons are good. You're always aware if an attack hit or missed. But the best aspect from the sounds is the narration. It's very well written, it's well acted, and it was a joy to listen to. The writing was so much more comprehensive than I was expecting. They must have created so much dialogue for this game, especially since there's different dialogue for the different scenarios you can find yourself in depending on gifts and how far you made it in your escapes. It's the type of thing a lot of people don't realize unless it's bad. If they repeated lines non-stop, I'm sure people would complain, so it's only fair to give them credit when it's well done. The story is fairly simple. Escape. Obviously, there's a bit more to it than that, but I don't want to give away too much. The story is pushed forward by conversations with other characters in between runs, but it is possible to bypass a lot of those conversations if you want. The vast majority of them are skippable if you just consistently start a new run right away, but the game does a decent job of tying upgrades into gifts and conversations with people, so skipping too many might actually end up backfiring on you. Because the writing is basically all conversations from one character to another, there's a lot that they have to say. It really allows different personalities to shine through. No characters end up feeling dull, boring, or repetitive. The gameplay though is where this game really shines, especially at the beginning. I feel like the game is a mix between Fury-style boss fights and the dungeon crawling roguelike aspect of Dead Cells, and the combination works very well. There is a small amount of starting weapons to unlock and choose from, but the in-game upgrades make each weapon more unique as you progress. After each chamber, you will be given a reward, either an upgrade that expires when you die, or an in-game currency to use in between runs on permanent upgrades to your character. The game creates a good mix of trying new abilities to make it further into an escape, and stocking up for permanent upgrades to help you consistently get further. Personally, I quickly found a combination of abilities that I really enjoyed, and whenever I couldn't find those specific abilities, I used those runs to go hunting for gems. There's so many different abilities, and when you combine that with all the different starting weapons, it creates many different playstyles. You're absolutely going to find your specific way to play. From going full attack mode with the sword, to range with the bow, to throwing a shield just like Captain America, you can play however you want. And having one change like adding deflect or weakness to your dash will change how you approach countless enemies. The variety in the game's moveset is a major feature, because if it was too similar each time, the game would get extremely repetitive. Essentially, you need to make it past multiple different levels, which are separated into multiple chambers, and when you die, you go back to the very beginning and try again. Each run can take up to an hour, but usually closer to 40 minutes. My first clear was on attempt number 30, and it took me around 38 minutes, but I absolutely had failed attempts that lasted an hour. Sometimes the same enemies just take longer to kill if you don't upgrade your weapons enough. The enemy types were pretty varied, which is good, and there was an appropriate difficulty curve implemented into the game. It can be tough to balance a game that the developers won't know what permanent upgrades the player will choose, or what abilities they will choose during each run, but I think they did a great job with it. One thing this game has in spades is replayability. From trying to escape with every different style of weapon to post-escape content, there is a lot of things to unlock in this game, and there's a lot of reasons to keep playing for a long time. There's a lot of good to say about this game. There's a reason why so many people had it as their game of the year, but it's not perfect. My main issue was being able to tell as early as 40% of the way into a run that it was going to be a dud. After the first section, if I didn't have enough strong abilities, I knew I wouldn't escape, and that run just became a grind. From my first time reaching the final boss to my second time was 9 more attempts, because the upgrades I was getting just didn't fit my playstyle. And at a rough estimate of 30 minutes a run, that's roughly 4.5 hours between good runs. It felt like a terrible checkpoint system. I understand that's the point of a roguelike, but it eventually started to feel a little robotic. Start a run, after 8 to 10 chambers, decide if it's a real run or a gem collection, then pick my upgrades accordingly, and repeat. I know that won't bother a lot of people. Look at speedrunners, replaying the same levels for weeks at a time. But for me, I didn't enjoy the runs starting to feel like they were essentially pointless. I know they're not pointless, but it definitely took away a lot of joy, especially knowing that there was no way I was going to win a specific attempt. The chambers themselves started feeling a bit repetitive as well. They are the same rooms over and over again, but they are in a random order and the rewards are randomized, which helps, but I definitely recognize the layouts multiple times. Aside from that, there's very little I had issues with. Hades is a game that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm going to keep replaying with the other weapons. I got my first escape with the bow, and I want to do it with the other weapons as well. Before playing the game, I had heard so much about the game. I thought it was going to be too overhyped and that it wouldn't be able to meet expectations, but it did so much right. It gave me a great first impression by giving me control of the character right away, and it kept doing more things right at every turn. I think the game is great, and it's deserving of all the praise it's been getting. If you're a Gamepass subscriber, there's no reason for you to let it pass you by. I highly suggest you give it a download. It's games like this that gives Gamepass a good name. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on Hades. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, it really helps out the video. Let me know down below if you've played Hades and your stats from your very first clear. For me, it was on attempt number 30 at 38.5 minutes, using the bow and arrow. On a side note, I also used a new method of recording my audio, so let me know if you think the sound quality is better or worse, louder or softer, and any adjustments I can make. If you're new here, please be sure to hit the subscribe button for more video game related content, and please share the video or channel with anyone who you think might enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this new audio sounds a lot better for you guys, because personally, it saved me a lot of time.